Ko hikirangi te maunga ko Waiaputawa ko Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko Becky Kiddle tōku ingoa. Currently, I am the director of Te Manawahoukura, which is a relatively new research or rangahau centre at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. But my particular background or expertise is in urban design. So I'm really interested in how cities work, particularly for indigenous people. The Imagining Decolonised Cities project was a group of us, so we worked with Ngāti Toa Rangatira. We all worked together to think about this sort of quite thorny idea of decolonisation, and people have been talking about decolonisation, but people don't often talk about what exactly it means. And my particular interest in this was thinking about urban design. Some people will say, well, urban design is not a Māori thing, because we don't think about things as being urban. And that may be true. Many of our early towns and cities were actually designed in Britain without actually understanding the landscape or the topography even. So you design cities to make it easy for people to move around them. The way Europeans have done that in the past is by creating landmarks, and landmarks tend to be church towers. And so we've dutifully followed this approach, and we've completely disregarded the DNA we've got here. So as you will all know, maunga are very clear kind of wayfinding tools that connect Māori to particular places. They create a sense of identity, and we haven't sort of made the link between that sort of identity creation tool and this tool that we've kind of brought in from Europe to create our cities. So you see this a lot in Auckland, where maunga, which is sources of identity for Māori, were quarried away for their resource. So if we're always saying cities are bad and they're not Māori things, then we lose the opportunity to think about them as Māori things. And 85% of us live in cities. So we're sort of losing opportunity, and we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't reframe urban spaces as Māori places. We're also doing mana whenua a disservice for whom the city has grown up around them, because it's their home, that's their mana whenua space. And I think that's part of the problem of city making today, is that the way we're responding is by putting in some art, because that's easy-ish, but it's easier than fundamentally thinking about how our roads and streets and maunga and awa and the things that give Māori identity are celebrated. I think for me, we will have decolonised when Māoriness is in the mundane stuff, the everyday, the stuff that we come across, and we just accept it as being normal. So an example that I often use is a Welsh one, actually. So if you go to Wales and you drive down the road, even the road signs that are roadworks ahead or keep left are all bilingual. They translate the mundane stuff so that it's clearly just what they do. When you can see Te Reo Māori all around you and it's kind of indicated in the mundane, then that would be a pretty clear signal that we're moving in the right direction. Some examples of decolonisation that I would think are not that obvious to other people. Down at the waterfront here in Wellington, there's some great landscape designers built a step that goes over the waterfront. And so if you're brave, you can climb up there and do a manu into the sea. And they've built it in such a way that a crowd can view this amazing feat from all around. And you often get Māori and Pacific kids doing this because they tend to have the guts, would be my gross generalisation there. But what it sort of speaks to is a sort of levelling thing where you don't need money to do it. Only thing you need is courage. I think the biggest thing is having a say. We don't have a strong tradition of community involvement in decision making around cities. And so the work I'm doing now is really about trying to kind of create tools to give to Māori communities so that they can advocate for the kinds of cities that they want, but also helping people who are designing our cities to recognise that there's diverse realities in what it means to be Māori. This Imagining Decolonisation or Decolonised Cities project started with thinking about rangatahi and how can rangatahi have a voice in all this. So we didn't know what the tangible outcome of decolonisation might be. We thought, well, surely it's better to kind of put this question out to the public and say, okay, you tell us, what do you reckon this is? And we wanted to work with Porirua and Ngāti Toa, a particular place that has been colonised, has seen the city grow up around them, and really try to kind of come up with some really tangible examples of what decolonisation might look like.
Ko Bianca Elkington tōku ingoa, no Porirua hau, ko Ngāti Toa te iwi. I live here in Takapūwāhia in Porirua. My tribe is Ngāti Toa. In 2015, we participated in a research project called Imagining Decolonised Cities. That was about bringing young people on a journey around the effects of colonisation and then the process that they could undertake to decolonise space, and in this particular case, cities. And what did that look like? When we got our kids involved, there were actually two groups of kids. Kids from Aotea College and kids from Takapūwāhia and Ngāti Toa. And they took them on this journey around colonisation and decolonisation. What was really interesting to me about most of the kids, they hadn't heard of the word colonisation. They were like confused by that. That was interesting in two ways. One, what's happening in schools? Obviously, what is the curriculum? But two, I thought, that's cool, because these kids, our kids, they live in a community where colonisation is just not even a thing. Like, they don't care. They don't care about the effects because their world and their life is about them and how they live. And I guess in communities like Takapūwāhia, where, yes, we've been affected by colonisation, we still have those threads that hold us really strongly to what life was before colonisation came. That's still very strong here. And obviously different whānau have different experience, but my interest in it was, of our kids, the effects of colonisation in our young people were those who were no longer connected to their roots, to the marae, where we were taken away from our lands and made to go in other places, and our language was stripped, all of those things. The effects on that has been the confidence in who our young people were as Māori and as Ngāti Toa, and we just have the role to bring that back. So my role is working for the Reo Māori as the General Manager for Education and Employment. And I really like to say that's a role thing, because actually what my role is just to be a good auntie and a good kaitiaki of the resources that we have at the moment, so that our kids and their whānau can continue this way of living for generations to come. And today we sit in this building here that we set up nearly 8 years ago, which was an iwi education hub. And that at that time, the vision was that we would have our own kura, and that kura would be something different to what is already available to our kids now. And so we then got on this journey of, well, what would a satellite school look like if we could open up a school for our kids to come just because they wanted to learn this way. They wanted to stay close to home, they wanted to be with each other, their teachers wanted to be their aunties. That exists in the correspondence schooling space, but it didn't exist in the way that we wanted it. So we're in that space now, 4 weeks into it. We've got a class of 10 kids from years 7 to 13 who come here every single day and do their mahi, and they've come and just thrived, and we're on that journey. So that journey is towards opening up our kura taiao on our whenua. It's a way of exchanging knowledge, and that will happen across generations. And what I really hope is that what they realise is that education is everywhere. So we've done a bit of work in education to this date around making sure that what our kids are being exposed to is the whole self, their connection to the whenua, their understanding of who they are as Māori and then as Ngāti Toa. Those kids that were involved in the project at that time are now probably 2 years out of university, for those that went on to university. So I can only imagine what contribution they're making and will make because of that project. I hope that in the future we don't recognise schooling. That's always what it's been about. And what I mean by that is that we no longer have to look at education as being something that's done to us. The education of our young people will be wherever they need it to be. I want to walk down the street when I'm an old lady looking at kids in the harbour, looking at rangatahi in industry, finding solutions to their challenges that are the local challenges out in the environment, and that's their education.